Hey, and welcome to this episode of Piano TV. It's been a really long time since I've shared with you anything about my piano courses that I teach on a habitual basis, so that's what I'm going to do in today's episode because I have a beginner class which is open for registration between February 18 and February 25th. So we're getting pretty close to that. But what I thought I would do with today's episode is not only give you a little bit of an understanding of what kind of classes I teach and what's out there for options for you as a potentially piano student, whether you're a beginner or otherwise. I wanted to also give you the first lesson for free and give you access to that for a couple of reasons. One, it gives you an idea of what the classes are all about, and it would give you a sense of if it'd be up your alley or not. But I also wanted to give you something of a template. If you're in a situation where you can't afford piano lessons or an instructor or a class, then you can take a look at how I've structured the first lesson and the way that I've integrated the checklists with different components like sight reading and technique and things like that. And then you can use that as a template for drawing perhaps out your own piano curriculum, regardless of what level you are. So I always want to give you opportunities to create tools yourselves. And this is something I think about a lot because I'm really into the development of curricula and understanding what the different moving parts of a curriculum are and why they're there and so on in piano and in other modes of study as well, since I'm currently a university student. So this is something that I've been thinking about a lot. And if you are tight on finances, this hopefully will provide you with a little bit of a better understanding of how you might structure your own learning so that you don't have the feeling of spinning your wheels as you're learning piano. This is the reason that I created these classes. So just to give you a quick overview, I have 4 leveled classes right now, and they're all stepwise and sequential. I have levels A and B, which is concurrent with the Royal Conservatory of Music's level A and B. It's pre-grade 1. It would be similarly leveled with the ABRSM as well. So I kind of work with their curriculum, and then I do specific deliberate teaching weekly lessons based on that curriculum. So I have a level A, level B. Each one of those are about 6 months. I might change the format of this in the future. I'm thinking in the latter part of 2023 or perhaps into 2024, I might switch to more of a semester type system. But for now, they're 6 months each. And then I also have a grade 1 class and a grade 2 class, and those are both about 9 months each, so they're a little bit longer in scope. Typically, when I would teach piano in a classroom setting, we would run from September to June. We would go along with the school year, and that equates to about 10 months of instruction, but it's not actually 10 months of instruction. It ends up being more like, I used to make lesson plans for 40 lessons a year, and that is even a little, I know that school teachers are usually more around the 36 lessons a year ballpark when when planning teachers' lessons. So 40 lessons a year, I think, is pretty good. And I've created the grade 1 and 2 classes to be pretty close to that. It's about 30 to 34 lessons. And then there's some extra padding. There's going to be breaks here and there. So those are the 4 different classes that I've created. And like I said, they all go sequentially. So the level A class feeds nicely in the B class. And those classes are largely about building fundamental knowledge. Basic things about rhythm, basic things about reading notes, and basic techniques. But then in grade 1 and 2, we do learn some new concepts, and we learn slightly more complex rhythms and things like that. But we're largely building on the skills built on the foundation of A and B and just developing them in slightly more difficult, I shouldn't say slightly, they're actually quite a bit more difficult pieces into these levels, again, which correspond roughly with the RCM, more specifically, a little bit less so with the ABRSM by grade 2, because grade 2 ABRSM is a little harder. I think it's more like a grade 3 RCM, but I do try to integrate both schools when I'm designing these curricula. So those are the classes that I offer, and the way that I teach these classes at the moment is that I run them as a group. So it's kind of like joining a university class. You don't just join a class whenever you want. You have to join at the start of a semester. So every 6 months, I've been running a new beginner class, and that means that every time that beginner class ends, the next class opens. So if you take the A level class, then once that class is over, there's going to be a B level class that opens. And once that class is over, there's going to be a grade 1 level class that opens, and so on. So that means roughly each class is opening 1 to 2 times per year. Just depends on the year. And that's the format that I've been going with. And it's worked really well in a group format. So it's a little more affordable than taking regular lessons. Regular lessons, depending on how long they are. I mean, if you're in a cheap place and you're only doing 30 minutes a week, you're probably at around 30 to 40 bucks a lesson. And if you're doing an hour lesson, of course, it's going to be more like 60 to 80. It can even go up to 100 if you're in a larger center and beyond that. So an average person in my neck of the woods would spend somewhere in the ballpark of 120 bucks a month on lessons. So mine are usually like a third of that price in terms of cost. So what you're getting is the like complete lessons, lesson plans, checklists, and everything. I'll show you what that all looks like. You're getting tutorial videos, you're getting the music. In level A and B, you're getting the music. In grade 1, I expect you to purchase some of the music because we want to support musicians and build your own collection as well. But that's a pretty minimal charge. And then in addition, I give you like the sheet, the sight reading and the technique exercises, as well as PDF and also as Muse score files. So I kind of give you everything, and it's not the same. I don't want to claim that it's the same as taking private lessons. Private lessons are great, and I actually have students who take private lessons and my classes too. If that's an option for you, I think it's a really good option, because if you have someone watching you play for half an hour every week, that's going to be enormous in terms of correcting bad habits and things like that. But I think often what private lessons can be lacking, and this has also, for the record, been true in my own teaching in the past. So the last 5 years I've really started to shift into, okay, how do we structure an approach to learning with a little bit more intentionality? But private lessons can be a little random, where maybe you're working through a method book, but if you're not working through a method book, it can be a little, what do you want to learn this week? Which is difficult for the student, because the student might not know what they don't know. So they might not know what pieces that they should learn. And the teacher doesn't want to necessarily teach them something that they don't want to learn, because then that means they're not going to practice and it's going to be a struggle for everyone. So while I think private lessons are generally really good for making sure you're playing with the right rhythm, making sure you are playing with good posture and all these other things that are super crucial to playing piano, I think they do oftentimes lack structure. It just depends on the teacher. There's some teachers who I'm sure are like very, very awesome at this. So I'm trying to fill a little bit of a gap there at a more affordable price point. And what I try to do is, I do this 3 times a month. We'll come together as a group, as a class, for a feedback session. So there's a lesson that everyone will be working on. Everyone will be working on the same piece together. And then the week after that, we meet for a feedback session where I share a handful of recordings that people have submitted in our private forum. And then I'll give direct commentary on those recordings. I try to do 10 to 15 per class. And depending on the class, that usually is most people who submit, or the majority. I also work with another piano teacher who does text-based feedback, just to keep people on check if I'm not able to get to everyone in a single class. But it's a balance of the structured content, kind of the sequential approach, plus direct feedback, which I think is really, really useful. But beyond that also, and something that I can't really take any credit for, I think there's an enormous benefit of the community aspect of it, of going through the classes together as a group. So these groups are often, they're usually, I think the smallest group we've had have been something like 35 people. The largest group we've had has been over 80 people. But you tend to see a lot of people who are posting week after week and sharing their experience, and you get to know them, and there's a little bit of a camaraderie of being in the weeds together with someone, that you're not just learning piano in isolation all by yourself, that you have peers around you who are going through the exact same struggles with the exact same piece with you. And you can do some mutual fist shaking at me, like, this is a terrible piece, Allysia. Why did you make us learn this? With a group. So I think that's a really oft overlooked aspect of musical instruction, which tends to be very solitary, including the private lessons are solitary too, right? I mean, you're practicing by yourself for the most part, and then you have a one-on-one with the teacher, and that's it. So again, not really something I can take credit for because it's the group, it's not me. I think that brings an enormous value to these sessions and help push people through perhaps rough patches where maybe they would be more inclined to take a break or give up or any number of things. If the whole group is moving ahead, it gives that little extra push, like, okay, I'm going to stay on the train. I'm not feeling it right now, but I'm going to stay on. And then we all manage as a group to weather those dips and valleys together. We get to share the successes, and we get to have a little bit of that extra push to get through the rough patch. So that's a really, that's a longer introduction than I meant to give about the way that these classes work. But again, it's been a long time since I've talked about them, and it's been over 2 years now since I've been running these classes. I started them in November 2019, which was actually really conveniently timed for the pandemic, unfortunately. But a lot of people happened to be indoors in 2020, so it kind of worked out, I think, for myself. Also, I had a teaching platform that was already set up in an online way. So over the last 2 years and a little bit, as I've been developing the classes and making the videos and working with people, I feel like it's a cool strategy. It's a cool way to take piano lessons. It's not, I don't want this to come off like I'm tooting my own horn or anything like that. And again, if you can't afford them, I totally understand. I'll offer you, again, the first week, and hopefully that gives you something to go on. And I also want to mention, I've made an enormous amount of videos over the years. So even if you are a beginner and you can't afford the classes, I have a beginner's playlist on my YouTube channel that you can go to, which offers PDFs, downloads that you can practice, and I give videos for how to learn the basics of music. I have, I think, somewhere in the ballpark of 500 videos on this channel. I also have 2 free courses. One of them is not really a course, and one of them's like just a collection of the free webinars that I've taught and will continue to teach. So you can definitely check those out. I have, I think on there's a good dozen webinars or so. They're all an hour length. And again, I'll continue to add to them. If you join my mailing list, I'll give you a heads up when we're doing these webinars. I do them once a month. I try to do them once a month, about 10 times a year. And we do them on a variety of topics. So they're always a lot of fun. And again, if you're looking for free piano instruction, I try to do as much as I can while being sustainable and also allowing me to earn a living. So it's a really good balance, I think, that's been struck, and something that I've been having a lot of fun with. What I want to take you on is a tour of what the course looks like if you're a student, and give you a little bit of a sense of just how everything works, how the lessons are structured, and I'll give you some links also below if you want to check out the first lesson yourself. So let's get into that. A very much belated start to this. All right, so I'm going to give you a URL right here, pianotv-courses.teachable.com/p/CPPA. I'm going to link it below. Sorry, it's not a very intuitive link. But this is the basically the outline of what the course is going to look like. So you type that in, you're going to see something that looks like this. Little blurb about me, and then you're going to see the entire curriculum outlined there. Literally every single thing that we talk about in every single lesson, all of the topics, et cetera, all the way through all 21 of the lessons. So even though you can see the headers and everything, you're not going to be able to access them, of course. But I have unlocked it so that you will be able to access all of the lesson 1 stuff here. So if you click on Introduction to Week 1 plus downloads for the week, you're going to get a look inside what the course looks like. So this is going to have a little blurb about week 1. I've got a video to give you a bit of an overview. And then I've got a whole bunch of downloads. So for starters, one of the downloads, well, let's do an overview first. So I provide a lesson plan, a checklist, the piece of the week, and sight reading and technique. So this is the lesson plan. And basically this is going over the pedagogy. What are we doing? What are the things that you're going to be learning? Well, by the end of this week, you should be able to know how to sit at the piano, know the finger numbers, and know the letters on the keyboard. So those are pretty important foundational stuff on piano. And then I talk about the piece for the week that we work on, which is The Edge of Space. It's just basically a way to explore the different letters on the piano. I've actually modified it a little bit from what it was a couple years ago. And then I give direct instructions on how to practice that piece throughout the week, and then how to practice the technique of the week. This is something that there's not a sheet for. It's actually just an exercise where you practice finding the letter names, and then I give you some sight reading exercises as well. In addition to that, in the lesson plans, I also provide a way for you to correspond this with a couple popular method books. I don't teach from these method books in the A and B levels. I do actually teach from them in the grade 1 and 2 levels. But if you are wanting to just explore more music and increase your depth of understanding, I think that's really useful. You don't need to do this. My course should have everything you need without the method books, but it's really useful, I think, to correspond with a method book, and I give you instructions on how you might go about doing that. And then just some general tips of how you would expect your weekly practice session to go. Practicing in 20 to 30-minute bursts, not spending too much time on sight reading. Most of the time is going to be on the material. And then, of course, you can download it. You're welcome to download it if you want. And then here are all the downloads. So I have The Edge of Space as a PDF. Might as well just open this up and I'll show you. Looks like this, and this is it kind of looks scary, so I have a tutorial video to break it down. You don't need to read all those crazy ledger lines or anything like that, but I also provide a MuseScore version of it. So if you have the MuseScore app, which is free, download it on your computer. It's really useful because you can kind of like play along with it, but you don't need the MuseScore version. I also include the MuseScore app file. So if you have a tablet or even your laptop will work, you click on the music and it pops up like this. And then what you can do, and this is really cool, is you can just hit the play button. And it'll just play through the notes. I mean, it's not going to sound very nice because it's not a real person playing. It's a MIDI file. But you can also toggle the tempo. So you're like, whoa, that's way too fast. Let's make it 50% speed, which is a little bit easier to follow. And then for a lot of people, this helps to be able to have something to follow along with or know if you're pressing the notes right or things like that. So I provide that option for the sight reading as well. I'll show you what the sight reading of the week looks like. Again, you don't need to read the notation. All that you're doing here is reading the letter names. To the best of your ability. I mean, spend 5 minutes a day on this. It doesn't need to be perfect, but again, you can hit the play button, manipulate the tempo. You probably recognize that tune, and so on. So pretty straightforward stuff. And then I do a zip file, so if you want to just download everything all at once, you can. Sight reading exercises, different formats, so the PDF, the MuseScore, and I also did one, the music stuff really throws some people off. Whoops, I didn't mean to download that. So I did do a version where there's just letters only, as opposed to any type of, actually my piano teacher when I was a kid used to give me music that looked like this, which I think looks like a mess to most people, but it's kind of like a code if you're a piano player in some sense. So those are all the downloads. There's no technique for this week, but normally there would be because it's sort of an informal just practice finding the letters. Otherwise, I would have a technique PDF / MuseScore file for you to use as well. So that's kind of just everything to get you started. This first page here, you can watch the video, you can download the materials, get oriented, and then I take you through the tutorials. Actually, one of the first ones is from Piano TV. So it's about piano posture. I've actually since created a webinar entirely devoted to this. It was like a 1-hour webinar, and it's also on Piano TV if you want to check that out. And then the lesson stuff. So how to do the technique of the week, how to find the letters, how to deal with the sight reading. It's just a little bit of an explanation. And then most importantly, how to work through the piece. You can see most of the videos are somewhere between the 10 to 15 minute mark when they're tutorials. And I give you explicit instructions on how to work on learning the patterns of this week's piece. So you'd watch this and then you'd get to practicing. And then you would spend a bunch of time. That's just the playthrough, so you can hear everything start to finish. And then what you would do after week doing all this, you would jump over to our forum. And from the forum, let me just open a new page here so I can show you. From here, you would be able to navigate to your class. So if you're in the new group, the CPPA March 2023 group, you'd click on there, and then you would maybe update your progress log. You'd share your recording for feedback in the feedback thread. Share some, if you have any questions, you can start a topic and ask me a question about that, or send me a private message. It's a really important point that I think is definitely worth reiterating, that I feel so strongly that our community be private and totally detached from any type of social media. So I don't do Facebook groups or anything like that anymore. I kind of started doing that, and I've really fallen out of love with that approach. So I have a clean, simple forum that's text-based. It's really like simple and lovely. You can, make posts. You can share feedback in the feedback threads, talk with your fellow comrades in arms, and etc. So it has a nice look and feel to it, and it's not social media. So even if you're not really into a lot of online correspondence, I find this tight-knit group, I think there's maybe 250 people here, so it's pretty small. Everyone who's just currently enrolled in all of my different classes, and you can see what all the different classes are when you log into that. So these are the two sides. So on the one side, you have the lesson content, which is over here, which I was just showing you, and you can download everything, and that's available to you forever once you buy the course. That doesn't disappear at any point. It's not like a college class. And again, that was a very deliberate decision. I didn't want to give you access to all the content for 6 months and then take it away from you. I want you to be able to have access to the videos and stuff for as long as you want them. And then the other side of it is the forum side, where you are participating and interacting with others and sharing your recordings and progress and things like that. And these two, combined with a third aspect, which is the live lessons hosted on Zoom, form essentially the triad of how the course runs and what it looks like. And I hope that gives you a little bit of an idea of what the classes are like. Please feel free to check out the first lesson at your own leisure, and hit me up if you have any questions. You can always email me at tech.pianotv@gmail.com is the one that I usually am able to respond to earliest. It depends on the week, but feel free to hit me up with any questions you have about that. And if you are interested in joining this class, I'll just show you. It's pianotv.net/cpp-a, and you'll have pretty much an entire explanation on how the course works, like what the there's like an introduction video and an outline of the curriculum, which you've kind of already seen, some testimonials, and all kinds of other stuff like that. So please feel free to check that out. Thanks everyone for checking out this video today. I will try to be back in the next few weeks with another video, because as I mentioned in my January post, it is my intention to do about one video per month this year. We'll see how it goes, but I'd really like to at least do a history video and some of those deep divey ones that I haven't done for a very long time. So I'm looking forward to that. More free content, of course, on the horizon. So thank you so much for watching. All the links of the stuff that we've been talking about today are below, so check that out. I hope to see you in one of our classes, and have a good rest of your day, wherever you happen to be, whatever time it happens to be, and talk soon.